into this mix.
Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Derrick Broze with the Conscious Resistance Network, and today is September 16th, 2017, and this is your weekly Conscious Resistance Live update, where I cover all of my stories that I've written throughout the week, as well as any important updates related to my work or the Conscious Resistance Network. I'm supposed to be in Miami today because I was supposed to be debating Eric July, who is he's an online social media libertarian. He's a singer of the band Backwards, and we were debating agorism and basically the differences between the philosophies of Murray Rothbard and Samuel Konkin III. But due to Hurricane Irma, that has been delayed until further notice, and I'll keep you guys updated as soon as I have details on that. I am preparing to go to Colorado this coming week for the Nexus Earth Conference, which I'm very excited about. This is a conference featuring people who are much more well-known than I, but I'm very excited to be speaking alongside them. Judge Napolitano, former politicians Ron Paul and Dennis Kucinich, Jesse Ventura, also a former politician, Adam Kokesh, Sterling Lujan. Friends of mine and, new friends, I hope, Max Kaiser, and many, many, many other people. Look up Nexus Earth. I think it's nexusearth.com. If you are in the Aspen, Colorado area and can afford to go to it, because I know I couldn't, but I'm thankful to be speaking there, and I'll be in Colorado for about a week. So if you don't get an update next week, that's why. And then in a few weeks from now, let's see, 3 weeks from now, I'm leaving, hitting the road again for the Decentralize Your Life Tour, East Coast edition, as we spend 2 weeks traveling the East Coast. Very excited about that as the Decentralize Your Life Tour comes to a conclusion for 2017. So if you want to find more about that, check out the details at theconsciousresistance.com/tour, and you can see that on our tab, US Tour 2017. So I want to remind you guys to visit theconsciousresistance.com. That's the home for all of my work and for our team's work, including guided meditations, essays, interviews, podcasts, things of that sort. You can also follow us on Facebook at The Conscious Resistance and on YouTube at Conscious Resistance. We're also on Instagram at The Conscious Resistance. So thank you guys for supporting, and if you want to support even further, you can support me on Patreon at patreon.com/Derrick Broze. So without further ado, let's get into this week's top news. I started out the week in Washington, D.C. for 9/11. Sunday and Monday and Tuesday I was out in D.C. For the 16th anniversary and some events. There was a press conference held by the Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth and family members of the 9/11 victims announcing the introduction of a new act called the Bobby McIlvaine Act, which deals with requiring, encouraging, pushing Congress to investigate. It would impanel a select committee in either the House or the Senate to reinvestigate the destruction of all 3 World Trade Center towers. And it's named after Bobby McIlvaine, who was killed at 26 while entering the North Tower of the World Trade Center. And his dad, Bob McIlvaine, works closely with Richard Gage of the Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth. They held a press conference and, they discussed this. You can see on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Conscious Resistance. I released several videos this week related to that press conference. I'm working on a new one right now that'll be out this morning. So by the time you're hearing this, it'll be out. It'll be on YouTube. Or probably I'll load it to my Patreon supporters first, but it'll be on YouTube very soon, if not already. And they announced that they were introducing this act, and they were going to go to all the different senators and congressmen and leave it at their offices, leave this little packet of information about the act and why they should introduce it, and try to introduce themselves to Bob and see if they can get any traction. Of course, I personally don't think there's going to be any traction. I don't think these people will touch it with a 10-foot pole, because they're afraid to investigate 9/11, they're afraid to be controversial, things of that sort. But that may change. The focus of this article from Mint Press News that I wrote was actually a 2-year study which has just been completed by the University of Alaska Fairbanks and Dr. Leroy Holsey. He gave a presentation on September 6th. He held a conference of his own in Alaska called A Structural Reevaluation of the Collapse of World Trade Center 7, September 2017 Progress Report. And he basically says that despite NIST's report of collapse of the building due to fires found on floors 7 through 9, 11 through 14, 19, 22, 29, and 30. There is no evidence of fire below floor 7, which would not explain how the building could collapse at such a quick speed. So Dr. Holsey and his team developed an AutoCAD drawing that they then used to create a virtual geography of the building. Now I think this could be the biggest news to hit the 9/11 Truth movement probably ever, because this is something, the fact that Building 7 fell and that everybody involved, people who've researched and looked at this have known, like, okay, this is impossible, this couldn't have happened. And the architects and engineers for 9/11 Truth have discussed this and talked about how, from their experience, their expertise, and the physics of it, that these buildings couldn't have come down the way that they did. And now we have, though, a study which will be peer-reviewed to back that claim up. This gives the man on the street so much more power to talk to, as I've been doing with man on the street interviews, a couple of which you can find on our YouTube channel. But it also gives the person who's trying to spread these ideas more credibility, because they can talk to the person on the street and say, look, there's science behind this. We have a 2-year peer-reviewed study from the University of Alaska Fairbanks. This is a structural engineer putting his life, his career on the line to show that this could not have happened the way they said. And now we have evidence of that. So please look further into this study. And also, if you go to our YouTube channel, you can see some interviews I did with Christopher Bolin, and those man on the street interviews I'm talking about. And with Christopher Bolin, he's an author and researcher. Please do watch that interview. He talks about what he believes is the influence of Israel, and specifically what he calls and refers to as Zionism, which I'm sure some of you have heard before. And he explains what he means by that. And this next story I didn't write, but it's related. It's coming from the Free Thought Project, reposted by Activist Post. And it discusses more of the apparent Saudi role in the 9/11 attacks. It's called Explosive Lawsuit Shows Saudi Arabia Funded a Dry Run for 9/11 2 weeks before. 2 years before. This is coming from the New York Post. 2 years before the airliner attacks, the Saudi embassy paid for 2 Saudi nationals living undercover in the U.S. as students to fly from Washington to Phoenix in a dry run for the attacks, alleges an amended complaint filed on behalf of the families of some 1,400 victims who are now suing the Saudi kingdom. The court filing provides new details that paint a, quote, pattern of both financial and operational support for the 9/11 conspiracy from official Saudi sources, the lawyers say. So this is just going further into investigating the Saudis' role, which some believed has been evident for some time. And as I said, other researchers point to, apparent U.S. involvement. If the buildings didn't come down from office fires, if it was controlled demolition or something else, if they were rigged with explosives, somebody would have had to give them access to the building to make that happen. So there's a lot more investigating to be done. But that's on the 9/11 front, so please check that out. Now, another story that's related to my hometown and just started happening in the past 2 days. We are being sprayed here in Houston with some chemicals that are known to kill bees, to possibly cause reduced motor skills in children, and has been banned by the European Commission. So this is a result of massive flooding from Hurricane Harvey, and we already have a pretty humid climate, and when the mosquitoes are out, they can be pretty bad. But they haven't really been out lately. There hasn't been any mosquitoes, at least not in the downtown area, maybe other parts of town outside of the city with more grasslands, I'm sure. But they're not just focusing on that. They're focusing on all the surrounding areas of Houston. And they're saying that 600,000 acres of Houston are to be sprayed by a controversial chemical, which, as I said, is known for killing bees and could potentially harm the environment, if not the local human population. And this is to stop apparent disease-carrying mosquitoes that may be coming to Houston. Now, we're being sprayed with what is known as dibrom or naled, which has been, as I said, shown to cause some problems. According to the Harris County Public Health Department, a statement from them, the insecticide dibrom, which is approved by the EPA, is routinely used for aerial spray operations to combat mosquito-borne disease and will be used during the spray operation in Harris County, which is where Houston is located. Dibrom is considered safe for the environment and is applied by licensed applicators according to the label instructions. That's what the city says. So, although the HCPH says dye broom is considered safe for the environment, a recent study has caused concern over the potential health effects on babies. Researchers with the University of Michigan found that 9-month-old babies in China who had the highest prenatal exposure to dye broom scored 3 to 4% lower on motor skills tests, including small movements on hands, fingers, face, and mouth and feet, when compared to children with the lowest exposure. In addition, in 2012, the European Commission concluded that type 18 biocidal products containing naled pose a potential and unacceptable risk to human health and the environment. And what do Houston's health officials recommend to Houstonians who are concerned about exposure? Stay inside. They say, for residents concerned about exposure, we recommend individuals stay indoors during the evening aerial application. And the statement goes on to say that beekeepers may wish to cover their colonies to prevent bees from exiting during treatment. This is because in 2016, August last year, in Dorchester County, South Carolina, a similar experiment was conducted, aerial spraying, and this was to combat Zika virus and West Nile virus. And the next day, residents reported millions of dead honeybees all over the city. One guy saying his yard looked like it had been nuked, and estimating he lost about 2.5 million bees and 46 different hives. So the Houston Audubon Organization released a statement regarding their concerns about aerial spraying. Specifically, they said the 2 insecticides to be used each pose risks to people and all animals who inhabit the large sensitive wetlands and aquatic ecosystems that would be affected by massive spraying from airplanes. And yeah, so, you know, I guess you can try to call them if you want. People have been trying to call them, but nobody's been getting through, or they've been just playing games with them. But the number is 713-440-4800, and they might redirect you to another department. Just leave a message wherever you can if you're interested in that. And, you know, this is something else I'm going to tell you about this in a moment. Is it seems like the people behind this, there is some apparent linkage to Monsanto in these chemicals, because we know Monsanto is heavily involved in creating chemical concoctions. So yeah, Monsanto and those kind of companies are benefiting from this spray. And the other thing that is really odd is that, you know, the Harris County Public Health, they are the ones who released the statement, but upon further questioning, they actually revealed that this is the Department of Defense. This is being done by the Air Force, but this decision to spray Houston was done by the Department of Defense. So kind of an interesting tidbit coming from the federal government. Another one I wrote about is called Homeland Security faces lawsuit over warrantless searches at border. This could be possibly a good thing. Could be classified under good news, right? Let's say that. Potential good news. The Department of Homeland Security faces a federal class action lawsuit for violating the rights of people crossing the U.S. border by searching their laptops and cell phones. And I've been telling you guys about this for a while now, how the border was already getting pretty militarized during Bush and Obama. This is increasing under Trump with his anti-immigrant, illegal immigration rhetoric. And, you know, that's, of course, what they sell it to you. I'm sure some of you guys are hearing this, like, oh, it's not about immigrants. He's not anti-immigrant. Okay, look, whatever. They sell it to you as this is going to keep the country safe, keep the border safe, right? Keep you safe from terrorism. All we got to do is take away all your rights. We'll keep the border safe. All we have to do is just heavily militarize it, put surveillance, biometrics all over it, and then you'll be safe, and no bad guys will come in and take your jobs. Yeah, whatever. But attorneys with the Electronic Frontier Foundation, the American Civil Liberties Union, have filed a lawsuit on Wednesday in defense of 10 U.S. citizens and 1 green card holder in response to warrantless searches at the U.S. border. During the Obama administration, Customs and Border Protection agents had a bad habit of conducting warrantless searches of cell phones and laptops. The documents released to the ACLU under Freedom of Information Act request revealed that between October 2008 and June 2010, 6,500 people were searched by Border Patrol agents. But that's nothing compared to just the first few months of the Trump administration. In early March, NBC News highlighted the rise in violations of basic rights, including an increase from 5,000 warrantless searches in 2015, right, to 25,000 in 2016. So Obama stepped it up at the end of his thing. And in the first couple months of 2017, Trump's administration has already searched 5,000 people. That was in February, so who knows what it's at now. I'm guessing over 10,000 plus. Maybe they're on record to beat last year's record of 25,000. In response to these searches, 4 members of Congress have introduced legislation requiring border agents to get a warrant. Imagine that. You have to get a warrant before searching through someone's devices. And this is the problem with the digital surveillance age, is they're trying to say, like, well, we're not sure because it's digital stuff. Does it really count? Should it be protected? Yes, it's someone's possessions containing their important information. Obviously, it should be protected. But this tyrannical government wants to be up in your life and everything that you are about and learn about who you are, and so they can try to profile you and put you on a list if they need to. And now the ACLU and the EFF are asking a federal judge to rule that officers cannot search electronic devices without warrants based on probable cause. Now, think about this. They're organizations, they're representing 10 different people who are affected by the searches, including several Muslims and people of color, a military veteran, journalist, a NASA engineer, and a business owner. So there's a man who's a NASA engineer. He's here in the country contributing a lot. He gets stopped after going on vacation. On his way back, they take his phone. Imagine this. They tell you, like, you're not getting in this country without giving us your phone. And even if you don't agree to it, they're going to do it anyways. And they have sometimes taken people's phones for weeks or months. Think about that. The cops going through your phone for weeks or months. EFF staff attorney Sophia Cope said in a statement, people now store their whole lives, including extremely sensitive personal and business matters, on their phones, tablets, and laptops, and it's reasonable for them to carry these with them when they travel. It's high time that the courts require the government to stop treating the border as a place where they can end run the Constitution. And this is, of course, because the Constitution has, for a while now, been known as a Constitution-free zone where the police can basically do whatever the heck they want. And the Border Patrol can do whatever they want. They set up checkpoints. They're taking people's devices. And they believe that they have the right to do this. So they're having to be sued in order to try to push them back. And as I said, this is just the latest in the Trump administration and other administrations using Stingray cell phone surveillance tools on the border, using biometric devices. They want to scan the face of every person coming in and out of the country. They want to create a biometric wall. And this is part of the program known as Total Information Awareness, which was started under the Bush administration, and it continues to this day under another administration. It continued during Obama's administration and under Trump's. So those are the stories I wrote about. Briefly, I want to throw 3 more your way. These are just a couple to check out. They're not the biggest news you might hear this week, but, well, some of them are pretty important, but they're worth your time. I'm just going to run through the headlines, and you can check them all, though. But I do want to say, if you enjoyed the last couple stories you just heard from me, please consider subscribing at patreon.com/Derrick Broze. Now, this one has been reported everywhere. This is from Activist Post, but you can find it all over the internet. GoFundMe raises $70,000, it should say, for hot dog vendor after cops stole his earnings. Now, you guys have seen this video. UC Berkeley police citing a hot dog vendor, and they actually took money from him. The freaking cop took like $60 out of the dude's wallet, like literally took money out of his wallet, not just like fined him and gave him a fee or something, but literally opened up his wallet and took money from him. So the guy, his name is Flores, Juan Flores. He started a GoFundMe campaign to help him with personal, legal, and professional matters. He called the campaign Official Justice for Juan and Street Vendors. And the campaign was set at $10,000 to help him cover other vendors who have been robbed of their hard-earned living through citations and removal of carts. It went up to $70,000, I think. It might be up further. Let me just see this right now while we're recording. But just another silly story. For one, it's important to me. It shows how people out there just trying to make a buck, just being out there in the agora and the counter economy. Maybe this man paid a fee or, he got a permit to do it. I doubt it. But this cop's just coming in here and robbing him. This is a third party interfering with free people who want hot dogs, who want foods, and this man is providing it. It also shows that, guess what? The market will take care of each other. $84,000. Look at this. This dude's raised $84,000 in 6 days from 5,411 people. This is how volunteerism looks. We don't wait for the police to take care of us. And in fact, when they come in and infringe upon our lives, we take care of each other. So check that story out. Another one, this is an important one coming from Activist Post from Brandon Turbeville. New documents show Pentagon is shipping billions worth of weapons to terrorists in Syria, trying to cover its tracks. And this comes from a new report from the Organized Crime and Corruption Reporting Project and Balkan Investigating Reporting Network, which came out on Tuesday, confirming that the Pentagon is continuing to ship massive amounts of weapons to Syria via Georgia. So look into that, just further evidence that the United States is involved in financing terrorism around the world. And finally, this one relates to my story earlier about the spraying here in my hometown. The U.S. government pesticide spraying in wake of Harvey, a toxic boon to agrochemical giants. So, and it goes into the Naled chemical I was talking about, or dibrom, and who's behind it and who's benefiting from it. And, it's worth looking into. As I said, there might be a Monsanto connection. There might be some chemical connections there. And it makes you ask these kind of interesting questions like, well, who's benefiting? This is, what some people refer to as disaster capitalism or just disaster benefit, benefiting off disasters. That a hurricane hits, people come in here, they get to spray, which maybe that's going to make people sick. Some people would say it's population control. I don't know. It's maybe a bad decision at the very least. And, chemical companies are going to benefit off of it. So there you go. That's my top stories for the week. Thank you guys for listening. I'm here usually every week. As I said before, I have not been doing the show lately because I've been on the road with the Decentralize Your Life tour and speaking events, but I do plan to bring this show back on a weekly basis. I'm going to be doing it live instead of just through Facebook. We'll do it on multiple platforms, and it's going to be done a lot more professionally like I used to do instead of just through my phone. So if you don't see me until then, that's because I'm getting all the necessary supplies to do that. But for now, thank you guys for supporting me. Thank you to everyone who supports me on Patreon. Please consider doing so for at least $1 a month at patreon.com/Derrick Broze. Thank you so much for your time and your energy and your effort to make the world a better place. Let's do something. Let's go out into the world today and do something good, something valuable that helps other people rather than just division and helping ourselves only. And let's lift each other up. Thank you guys for the support. This is Derrick Broze with The Conscious Resistance, reminding you, you are powerful, you are beautiful, and you are free. Peace.